Hey everybody,
And
we're
we're
back. Round two. So on this one we have, well, it's Joey and I again because it's 50% my channel. That's why I'm doing the introduction. And the wonderful Jennifer Hodgson.
Thank you.
Paranormal investigator. Yep, she's a paranormal investigator, and oh gosh, lady, you do so much.
I do.
There's something else you do. So I'm gonna kick it over to you. First, I'm gonna say we are talking about ghosts, les spooks, and such today, and paranormal investigation in general. Is there anything else you want to add to what you do and
what I do? Well, I wear many hats. My husband and I own a web design business and a photo memory DVD business. And I'm also an author, a Reiki master. So the list can keep going, but I am a investigator. I'm an intuitive, many hats.
As well, I think I read somewhere in that.
What was the question?
I said you do past life stuff as well, right?
I do. I am also a past life practitioner. Actually, there is a great course and a great person who teaches that. So,
all right. So, I guess Chloe is here. She's getting everything.
I'm trying to get the technology to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, there's Chloe. I guess you guys can know about her, right?
On my channel.
I know you will. I have faith in you.
Yes, today has been a very interesting day of
technology. Right, okay.
Crazy.
So before we get into this, look.
It's a ghost.
I'm going to put on my I believe in you ghost pin.
I love his little face.
I'm going to hook him into my necklace, I think, because I can't really pin on this top.
Basically.
Yeah, like horrified, like humans exist. Oh my god.
Right?
A little bit.
Oh my gosh.
So thank you guys for joining us on the second live chat. Thank you for Jen for bearing with the disaster that has been my technology for the last few days. And today we're here to talk about mainly spirits and spooks and paranormal investigations, because whilst as we've already mentioned, Jen does a lot of work. We only have 1 hour to cover, and it's stuff to cover everything. And the paranormal investigation stuff fascinates me. And we talk a little bit, we talk completely about like the dead and spirits and ancestors and things between Cris and I. So we thought that would be an interesting way of featuring Jen and making people aware. She's the traveling witch, is that right? The traveling witch here on YouTube.
Yes.
And on Facebook. And I will sort all the links out once all the videos are out and done, and I will go back and sort all the links out. So and then my pen fell off. All right, my ghost does not believe in me. You can sit in my top pen. Just yeah. Right. So I guess what is paranormal investigation, Jen, and what do you do when you're going out on paranormal investigations?
Paranormal investigating is just, basically helping homeowners or business owners to figure out what's going on in their home or in their business. It can be anything from spirits that are still lingering around, could be spirits that are connected to a person. It could be connected to the property itself. It could be connected to a home. There are many different variations of spiritual activity and paranormal type of activity. It could also be something that stems from something that's happened in your past that you haven't dealt with, which can create a lot of different things. So, and what I do as a paranormal investigator is I'm actually the very first person that people talk to when they have activity going on in their home or in their business, they will normally email us a information about what's going on, information about where to contact them, how to contact them, you know, the best times, that kind of thing. And then I speak to them, and we would set up, or I would set up a prelim, and we would go and check things out, make sure things are legit, because we do have people who will make things up just so that they can experience an investigation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then once we actually go and do an investigation, there's a number of things. I mean, I'm not the only person that goes. We have several team members, and each person plays their part, except that when there's a problem or an issue, I'm the person they come to. So, because they know that I'm not one to mince words, and I will just get straight to the point.
Hmm. Gosh, how do you deal with people who are faking? How does that even become a thing that people are faking?
Like,
well, the way that I deal with that, like I said, I talk to them, and I talk to them. Sometimes I'm on the phone with these people for about an hour. And once you start asking the right questions, the truth finally starts to come out, and you hear the key words. I mean, you really listen for certain things. Like, they'll tell you, oh, we watch all of the shows and we think it's fascinating. And there's just a lot of little things that they say that will tip you off that, hey, this really isn't a legit person. Or, I mean, we've even had teenagers to call us, and it's like, no, I need to speak to your parents. I can't talk to you about this. You need to have your parents call me, and I will talk to them.
You have any questions at this point, or shall I just carry on, Cris?
Well, I guess, what would be, like, your favorite story that you've had so far that you're allowed to speak on? I don't know how that works, but.
Well, there's a lot of different things. I wouldn't say that I would have a favorite, because I've had so many different experiences at each location. Most of the ones, I don't think there's really anything that I can't talk about as long as I don't use certain names. But I would have to say the first one that had the biggest impact on me was the old Blackford County Hospital. That is something that I can speak about and not be worried about mentioning a name. This place was basically my first investigation, real investigation. And that literally turned my world upside down and inside out. Upon walking into the building and just walking down the hallway, I had different images and insights to things that were going to happen in the next 6 months. And so that was really huge for me. And, you know, telling people, well, we need to be in this area, the nurse's station, like we would need to go to the nurse's station, or we needed to be in the kitchen. Like, I was telling people where we needed to be at, because that's where the activity was taking place. And that's whenever I would do that, that's when people were starting to see shadows, and they would see these big dark figures, and things would just happen. This place had no electricity whatsoever. So when you're using your equipment and it just suddenly just shuts down for no reason, there's no reason for the batteries to be dead or anything else, because you just replaced them. You know, there's a lot of things that go on. In this place, we investigated several times, and there was chairs that would be not in a hallway, and you would come back and there would be a chair in the hallway. And we have on video where a little piece of wood was on the floor, and you can actually see it shoot across the floor. I mean, it's like somebody just picked it up and threw it, but there was nobody there. So it's those kind of things that is really interesting. And the Old Hartford City Jail is another location that I can speak about. Before we actually went to this investigation, there was actually a cellmate, I guess you could say, standing in our kitchen. And later on that night, I actually felt like somebody was pressing down on my arms, holding me down. And when I woke up the next morning, I actually had bruises on my arms that were straight across from each other. So there's a lot of things, a lot of different stories that I can share about things that has happened and taken place.
Have you had any really scary moments when investigating it? Because I bet that's what people ask all the time, but I'd be interested to know if you've ever felt that you went into somewhere and it felt different, it felt hostile, or you had experiences that were kind of scary.
I've never been afraid of anything. Everyone in my group will tell you that if there's something going on, I'm the one that's in the middle of it, or I'm the first one that's going in. I'm not afraid of anything that we've ever experienced, anything we've ever seen. There is nothing. Now, I have homeowners that have practically been sitting on my lap because they're petrified. And I have group members who won't go certain places by themselves, and somebody has to go with them. But there isn't anything that I've had that's been really scary. And I guess that's because I know that no matter where I'm at, I know I'm protected, and there is nothing that will actually bother me. And that actually has been put to the test at Poasttown Elementary. We were doing an investigation, and we were doing an investigation with a reporter because they wanted to tag along and do a 3-part series on our group. And I was sitting in this one particular hallway with a chair, and you could feel the energy. It was not a very pleasant energy at all. And I knew that I had to protect myself, which I did. And by the time we left, I had a really bad migraine to the point that I was vomiting by the time we got home. So,
wow. Well, someone in chat has actually asked, how do you purify and protect yourselves as you go to search out spirits? So that kind of ties into that.
What I do before an investigation is I am in meditation the day of. I call on my guides. I call on the Morgan, obviously. There are different connections that I have that I call on to protect me. And I envision myself in a bubble where that I'm not going to be bothered or hurt in any way. I also visualize that bubble to include all of our team members as well. I don't want anybody to be vulnerable, but each person does something that's unique for them to protect themselves also. And then once we leave a location, one of the things that I do is I will smudge myself before we leave, and so do other members of the group. And then I'm very firm with whatever is there has to stay there. It cannot come home with me at all.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, like, I've done a little bit, not to this extent, but the most important that I've found, even not, like, just experiencing, like, spirit in general, is that you have to believe that you are protected regardless, like, your core. There's nothing outside of it necessarily that's going to you believe in your core, and then the other you can do, and it helps, like, bolster that belief, but you really have to kind of be like, nope, this is my space, and you will not get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we have seen, I've seen investigators not do that, and, they've brought things home with them. There's been things attached to them, and, they've left the field because there's been so much stuff that's happened to them that they just can't deal with it. And it's like, you have to take it seriously. You can't just say, okay, well, it's all just good spirits, or I really shouldn't say good, but it's not just, they're all positive. There's no negative. And that's not always the case. Sometimes you're dealing with things that isn't from this world, basically. But you're also dealing with people and the things that's happened in their lives. And sometimes activity, is there because of things that have happened. If they've had, an abortion, or they've had a miscarriage or something like that, and they've not dealt with those issues, sometimes that can manifest itself into paranormal activity. And once they're right, exactly. And once they're able to gain control of that and understand what that's all about, the activity stops.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when I'm doing graveyard visiting, which is something that I do, because I go and honor the forgotten dead, which I've talked about in a number of different places. And when I leave graveyards, I always make sure that I draw a line, that I sort of create an energetic barrier, that once I step over this line, that is the end of this ritual. This is the end of this engagement. This is following this. I step over this line and that's it. You do not follow me any further than this line. There's a boundary there. And so that's something that I do, which is slightly different. I do all the self-protection as well, but I thought I would mention the kind of creating boundary lines that you then step over when working with spirits.
I think that's very important too, Joey. I think that's a great thing to do, to draw the line with them.
Julie wanted to ask you if you help spirits move on when you go, or if it's just investigating the activity, if it's more like a scientific analysis of what's happening at the site and such.
No, if there are spirits who are ready to cross over, I will absolutely assist them in crossing over into the light. We encourage them to go to the light. But, spirits go when they're ready. You can't say, well, I'm sorry, but you're going to the light. You're going to the light today. And that they're just not ready. You can't make a spirit go when they're not ready to go. Mm-hmm. So, it's kind of both. It's more, yes, we document the activity, but it's also about not only helping the homeowners or the business owner, but it's also about helping that spirit. If they have things that they need answered or they need help with something. And a lot of times you will have spirits that will tell you that they need help. And so that's what we try to do. And sometimes they're just wanting, the homeowners or the business owner to recognize that they're there, that they need help with whatever it might be. And then once that's taken care of, then, they'll go on, they'll move on when they're ready and they've done what they need to do.
Well, that's, I grew up in a really old house, and the spirits in that house, they just wanted to be acknowledged. Like, they didn't really want anything in particular. They just wanted to be acknowledged. They just wanted a, oh, hello, or hi, or, how are you doing today? And like, that's it.
I found that a lot. I found that
sometimes
a lot.
Sometimes it's that simple. It's just like a don't forget me, I'm still here.
Exactly.
How would you know if spirits are following you home, etc., is a question.
Well, in our home, we have spirits coming and going all the time. But one of the ways that I know things are off is when normal things that I'm used to seeing happen, there's an increase in other things that shouldn't be happening. A lot of, you just get a vibe. I mean, there's just a lot of energy. If there's something that's negative that follows you home, you will know it. I mean,
You'll
it's
feel
like,
it. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I cleanse and sage the space a lot, not just my own sacred space, but the entire house a lot. But there's a different vibe, a different energy to your space.
Well, Julie just asked, so when you see paranormal shows, why is it they come to check things out? It's usually to aggravate the situation. Probably because those kinds of shows are designed to be sensationalist and get the most for views. A lot of the shows that you see, some of it will be falsified, which is unfortunate for people who are trying to legitimately document paranormal activity, because a lot of these shows do fake a lot of it and they've been caught out doing it. But when they're pushing and they're trying to get an aggravated response, it's because they want a sensationalist show. They want more activity to document, so they're trying to push buttons to piss off ghosts, basically. And so they've got more on film to...
Which, from my point of view, not the wisest thing anyway. Have fun with that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not the wisest at all. But you're right, Joey. A lot of times that is what they do. These shows, they're at these locations, 3 or 4 days or maybe longer. And what they do after they go through and they get their activity, after they find activity on the recorders or whatever, then they have to go back in and they reenact those things. you know, and different places, because, you know, you don't always know where the activity is going to take place. So a lot of times that's reenacted, and then they have to sort through and put all of that together to make one show.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a problem for people who legitimately want to investigate ghosts and spirits and things, because people like that make everybody look like frauds. And there are people who will say, you know, oh, there's no ghosts, there's no spirits, blah, 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 human beings make it up, blah, blah, blah. And they'll cite these shows as, you know, proof, because these shows are doing a disservice to people who are legitimately seeking to investigate and document paranormal activity. So yeah, those kinds of shows kind of irritate me a little bit, because they're doing more damage than, in a lot of ways, they're doing more harm than good.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm friends with some people that were part of shows, and I know some of the stories that they've talked about, and I'm not going to mention their names, but I will tell you that one of them was at a location and they wanted to go in a different part of the castle to investigate, and the producers told them no, they didn't have permission to go in that part of it. They had to stay in the other part of it, and the part they wanted to go into is where actually all the activity was taking place. And then there is another person who, and I know he speaks about this at different events in a public forum, and he had said that he walked into the bathroom and this spirit, this entity said, I F the mother and I'm going to F the daughter. And the daughter was like 3 years old. And he said that he was sitting in one part of the house, and the rest of the crew had went somewhere with the mother. And the little girl was just prancing around with a teddy bear. And all of a sudden she stopped and said that her hands went straight. And he's like, I knew shit just got real at that point in time when she did that. And basically in another voice, she was telling them to get out. Now, when the producers came back, he wanted to tell the people that lived in this house what he experienced, what he saw, what he heard. And they told him no, he was not allowed to do that. Now, this mother, from what he had said, she had to go to the hospital because she had burns inside of her. And they had asked her if she had inserted a curling iron because of the degree of the burns. But the producers would not allow him to tell these people what he had heard and what he picked up, which is so sad.
Dangerous as anything. Jeez.
Yeah. And the provoking part, you know, all that does is allows other groups or things, you know, other groups think it's okay to provoke. And that's not something you ever want to do. You never want to provoke a spirit or entity, because you never know what's going to happen. And, you know, even let's take it a step farther. Some groups will allow children under the age of 18 to be part of an investigation. And that's something that our group will not do. I mean, we've literally left a location because their children was there, and they're like, well, they're here all the time. And it's like, I don't care if they're there all the time. You don't know what's going to happen that night at that point in time. And I don't want them in harm's way at all.
Yeah.
I mean, we've literally had, there was a dog that actually attacked Steve and actually was going for his face. He was able to push the dog away. And listening back on the recorder, what you heard was, get out of the dog's way. And, you know, even with animals, you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, I was attacked by a cat when we were doing a cleansing at a home. The cat was fine, was laying on the bed. I placed the candle down, turned around, and was walking out of the room, and the cat just lunged and attacked for no reason whatsoever. So you just never know.
So we have someone asking about, does the entity Billy ever come through you guys? Like, that comes through in a lot of investigations.
Does it what, Chris?
There's an entity called Billy, I guess, that they said, they're asking if it comes through you guys ever.
Now that I've not heard of that at all.
Yeah, I don't either. So, and then the next one is, do you? Wait, no, that's just someone else. What's happening here?
I'm guessing that, I don't know. I'm confused.
Okay. Mary said we have an old graveyard in the center of our city that was paved over and graves were not moved. Some gravestones were moved to a bigger graveyard, but they didn't move the bodies. The site is well known for activity in town. And Julie asked her, do you feel that the bodies under the concrete are angry, or do you feel it's just bones? Spirit there. Have you investigated any like graveyards or burial mounds or anything like that before, Jennifer?
Yeah, we don't investigate graveyards, cemeteries. We don't do anything along that lines. Most spirits don't hang out in cemeteries and graveyards unless their loved ones are there. Your loved ones are going to be wherever you are. They may go back to visit a place that they absolutely loved or adored, but they're not going to stay there. As if there's activity in a graveyard, then chances are pretty good a spirit is restless because of maybe the headstones have been moved and the rest of the remains haven't. So I could see that kind of thing going on, but I've never seen a lot of activity, around.
Yeah, I have to say, I have the same experience with graveyards. I don't feel so much the people there as I feel the imprints, the sorrow, and the joy, and the memories of people.
Oh,
absolutely.
Oh, we're losing you, Cris.
Oh.
Oh no. Okay, I think you were right. You went black for a minute and your sound went out.
Oh, could you still hear me?
I can now. Yeah, that was weird. Let's talk about spirits and the technology stopped working. Dalton asks, how does Reiki pair up against foul spirits or entities?
Well, when I do investigations, I don't really bring the Reiki into that. There's a lot of things I keep separate. So, I don't incorporate that. It's just the same way as I don't open myself up for channeling when I'm at an investigation either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Because that could be risky.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I do know some people that do, and they will allow the spirit to communicate through them, but that's not something that I actually allow.
No, I've seen that and I wouldn't want to see that again. Yeah. So just to go over that, I was in the old house after the trauma had happened in that house, and there was something negative in that house afterwards, presumably attracted by the trauma, although that house was never very good for attracting unpleasantness. But I saw somebody get possessed in that house, and it was horrifying. I never want to see anything like that as long as I live ever again, because he just turned. He suddenly turned his head and he put his head back and he started howling with laughter.
You can't
for no reason.
That I'm sorry. Like, there's a difference, because I've seen that, firsthand as well, and the bone structure, the cadence, just everything, their energy changes, and it's not the same.
No, you're right. Yeah, I've had that experience too firsthand at an investigation. It was actually in a town about 15 minutes from where I live, and there was a woman who was at this investigation. She was really good friends with the family, and there was a lot of children at this house, and there was one who was in a wheelchair. She was handicapped. She couldn't speak, and she was the one that was having the most issues, and I believe there is a reason why certain people are targeted for the paranormal. But in this case, she actually was talking in a normal voice, and then a question was asked, and then it just flipped, and she was talking in a totally different voice. And this woman, it was so weird because no matter where I went, she would just appear. Like, I would go to one room and not 2 seconds later, this woman would be in this room. And so it was a little weird to be in there, and I'm just like, okay, whatever, and just went on. And that's kind of how I deal with the paranormal. I'm just like looking at it and be like, okay, there's a shadow in there, or there's a knock on the door. Okay, let's go see what's going on.
Yep.
You know, that's just that's just me though. But as far as
I understand that reaction. I mean, that's pretty much how it was at my house growing up. Is like, oh, yep, and there it is.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
Right.
I mean, I have people calling me at all times of the night and of the morning, and it's like, what do you expect me to do at this point? Document it. Just document it and call me when I'm awake. But, you know, I think there are people who are handicapped that who have disabilities. I shouldn't say handicapped, that have disabilities. And those are the ones that are targeted the most. And whether they, I don't know if it's because they, especially the nonverbal ones, people who can't speak. Those are the people that I have found, and especially children, that spirits tend to go after, and not in a good way. They get them to believe that it's grandma or it's their aunt or their uncle. And it turns out that once they gain their trust, you know, then they flip that switch and it becomes something totally different. And so I have found that those are the ones that seem to have the most activity.
Do you find a lot of deception with regards to spirit work?
Yes, there can be, depending on what type of spirit you're interacting with, because there are spirits who will be honest with you, and then you have spirits who will not be honest with you. So you really just have to, and if you keep asking the question, if you ask a question and you keep getting a different answer each time, then you know this spirit is not going to be truthful with you. And no matter what you say, no matter what you do, you're never going to get to the bottom of that. And it's like at that point in time, you get to the point where it's like, if you can't speak to me in a truthful manner, then just leave and don't even communicate with me at this point.
And do you think it's mostly human spirits that you interact with? Because people have been asking about different kinds of spirits, but do you find it's human spirits that you mostly interact with?
Me personally, I communicate with spirits that are in human form. There are a lot of people who say that there are demons and, you know, whatever. For me, I mean, I'm sure there could be, you know, but I think it also has to do with positive and negative. I don't really look at it as something that's demonic or something that's angelic. You know, it's a spirit, and each spirit has different energies about them. What are your thoughts on that, Joey?
Okay, well, a lot of the spirits that I communicate with tend to be within nature. So, I'll say this twofold. So, the spirits I proactively seek out are the ones within nature. So, spirits of plants, plant davers, trees, and things like that, which have a very different energetic feel to them than humanoid spirits. So that's a completely different experience. It's something that might be interesting to see if you could document the spirit life force of plants and things. And it's definitely something that science has been looking into, because they've been releasing arguments about trees talking to each other and being able to prove it scientifically. That was a recent thing that got proven. But with regards to humanoid spirits, so I consider myself to be clairvoyant, and I always saw I see dead people from being a kid. And I would, like, most of it was quite benign. I remember seeing a Victorian lady in the corner of the room for a while. I remember seeing a nun in the middle of town, and it was busy, and we're like walking through, and there was a nun in a very bright blue and nun outfit. And I said to my sister, did you see that nun that just walked past us? My sister's like, what nun? And I turned around and she was gone. And so I believe that was a spirit, because it was such a bright blue, unusual nun outfit that it stood out to me, and that my sister hadn't even seen it, even though she was right next to me and things. So, but I've had negative experiences with humanoid spirits, which is why I don't proactively seek it out. I mean, we've had all right ones. Where I used to live, there was definitely an older woman who used to remind me to brush my teeth by wiggling the toothbrush. And I would be sat at my desk and a lipstick would roll across and stop dead in front of me. And I was trying to like recreate it to see if I could roll the lipstick somehow. And like, no, the lipstick wouldn't just roll down the desk and then stop dead in the middle of the desk or anything. So I've had some experiences like that, which is fine. And when that happened, I was just like, oh no, I'm okay. I've started with this one now. I'll use this one today. I'll use that one tomorrow, that sort of thing. Just talk to the spirits that are trying to be helpful and want acknowledgement. But when it's a negative, frightening experience, especially when you're younger, because a lot of the frightening stuff happened to me when I was quite young. Which is something that Jen had mentioned, like because kids' minds are broader and more open to it, and they're less doubting and less closed off, I think, for the most part. So when I was younger, there was a lot of it, and it wasn't very pleasant, some of it. And at that point, I didn't know how to spiritually protect myself either, and nobody around me was going to be teaching me how to do that either. So there was no way for me to know. So I just shut it all down in the end. But it can be unpleasant. Some of it, but I think it's just one of these things that you kind of realize it's a lot like human beings. Some of your interactions are going to be pleasant and helpful and interactive, and some of them are going to be negative and not. So that's just kind of how I see it. Some human beings are dicks, so some spirits will be.
That even extends past human spirits into all the rest as well, I think, because I mean they're all different. It's you're going to get some that are dicks and some that are nice and some that it's on their terms. You know what I mean? To some degree.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, with me, I grew up, I don't even remember her, but apparently when we were very small, I had this one friend and she had a very old name. That's all my mother remembers because I was really tiny. And I would talk to her and I'd play with her all the time. And like, we'd be, you know, just having a ball outside or whatever, or in my room a lot. And I was very young, right? So I moved to another room eventually, and my brothers moved into that room. And when I moved to the other room, I'm sorry, they were there first. And they would get flipped. They would get kicked out, and my mom would be like, just shut up, go to bed. And tell it to go away, go to bed. And then I came into the world and they stuck my crib in that room. And so for the first few years, until I was about 4, we lived there. And my mom used to yell at them because she would hear them jumping on the bed. And they weren't even in the house. So when I got there, that's when suddenly I had a friend, right? And when we moved, never talked about that friend again. So it started pretty young with me. And then from there, just kind of every house I went to, there would be like the Fae at the house that I grew up the longest at. We had this giant oak tree, and it was right next to the house. And anytime we would put Christmas lights on the side of the house that was next to that oak tree, they would cut them out because it was bright and we're trying to sleep here. Right? So, and my mother I'd be like, Mom, the lights are out again. And she'd have to come upstairs to where we have them and be like, look. We'd have like a talk with the Fae and then go back downstairs and they'd be on for another few days. And then they go off again and she'd have to do it all over again.
Oh my gosh.
Or like, I remember one of my most distinct one is waking up with a silhouette, like a darker figure right next to my bed. And it didn't feel imposing. It didn't, like, they were just there watching. And I kind of looked and it was a male maybe a teen, because they weren't very tall. But my bed, and I remember blinking because I had like a light on, but it was distant, right? It was kind of dim, and thinking, is this my blanket? Because I had been sleeping. Is this my blanket? No, I'm gonna blink again. Nope, still there. Is this my hair? No. Well, oh, now they're gone. All right, well, that happened, and then like I distinctly remember getting up and just going on my computer. Like I didn't shut on a light. I didn't do any of that. I was just like, all right, well, that was the thing. People are watching me sleep. Let's go chat on a chat room or something.
Right.
So, I mean, I've had both. I've had, and they all are, it depends on the spirit.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And a lot of people will say, oh, that's demonic or that's evil. And it's like, well, how do you know that's evil? I mean, yes, they're doing things that maybe they shouldn't do, but why are they doing that? They're not, if something is demonic, I think they're going to really do some major harm to you and to everything around you, no matter what you're doing, where you're going, or anything else. They're not going to stay in one house. And I also think that it's going to affect more than just that family. If something that's demonic on earth, it's going to try to go after as many people as it possibly can, other than, oh, let's just target this one house. Let's target this family. That's it. Nothing else.
So Dalton asks, why do you think there's more spirit activity at night? Somebody, Julian Chap, mentioned the fear element, but I think I wanted to mention that there's a psychological expectation of spirit activity happening at night. We kind of made a self-fulfilling prophecy with it. There is, of course,
it's like shadow work and fall and winter.
Yeah. There is, of course, the fact that most people sleep at night, so their subconscious is more to the surface. And I found that spirits do show up a lot at night because they can make themselves heard easier. Your active mind isn't taking away from the realm of the spirit quite so much in the same way. So if you're about to go to sleep, you're resting, you're like changing your is it alpha into delta when you're falling into sleep waves? Is that the right way around? Or is it alpha into beta?
It might be.
Anyway, you're more receptive.
I think it's beta.
You're more. Yeah, I think it is beta. I think you're right. And then you're more receptive to hearing spirits, feeling the energies, because you basically monkey mind is off. Is you're not doing this, and this, and you're completely distracted.
Absolutely. 100%. We have people ask us all the time, well, why do you investigate in the dark? Well, that's because there's less distraction around you. So that's absolutely correct, Joy.
It's kind of like meditation. When people meditate to be more attuned, that's what they're doing. It's a sort of a sensory deprivation kind of deal.
Absolutely.
So Golden Tiger, I said most of the paranormal experiences she'd experienced had been during the daytime.
Paranormal activity can happen during the day. It doesn't just, it's not for nighttime. And, another myth that I always debunk a lot is the dead time. People say the dead time is at 3 a.m. And I'm like, nope, if activity is going to happen, it can happen during the day. It can happen at 8 o'clock at night. It can happen at 7 o'clock in the morning. There is no dead time. I mean, we've walked into homes and started bringing in equipment and, having a recorder on, and you have spirit activity at that point in time interacting with you and communicating with you and things happening, the doors opening or a door is rattling or
I just want to appreciate that you called it dead time. Because that's hilarious to me.
That's amazing. The dead time. Okay, so we're in the last 10 minutes of this hour. So if you guys want to ask questions about paranormal activity, paranormal investigations, or spirits that we haven't covered yet, this is your 10-minute warning.
So something something that I read the other day, and I don't know how true this is. If it's not, correct me, someone. But the reason that we have the 3 o'clock thing is because that's the hour where they didn't have masses going on with Catholicism and such. There were prayers and things going on, 3 to 4.
I have no idea. I had never heard that. That's an interesting
Yeah, I had never heard that either, but I have always wondered why it was 3 and 4.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I wondered if because 3 was so sacred to a lot of the pagan pagan world.
My thinking, but
No,
it hasn't been my experience either, though.
No, I haven't had a load of weird. You know, when I would have a load of weird stuff happen, most of the time in the middle of the night, it tended to be around like the 1 a.m.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you liked my shirt. And thank you for joining us, Goth Goddess. So there is no evil, only soul.
There is only soul.
Only soul. Random Witch asks, how do you feel about coexisting with spirits, such as happily living in the same house and as a non-threatening spirit?
I do it every day. How about you, Jen?
I have spirits coming and going all the time. I don't have any problems with them at all. So Joey?
Well, I lived in the old house. There was that older woman who used to help me out, so she was more helpful than anything. If I was forgetting to brush my teeth, the toothbrush would rattle, and I'd be like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah, they can a lot of times be pretty helpful. Have you had a lot of places that you've investigated, Jen, where they were like scared of it, and then you were just kind of like, "Look, they're actually pretty nice, and they just want to hang out, if that's okay with you."
Yes. Oh yes. Oh my gosh, I have people call me all the time that are petrified. And it's so funny because these people will literally leave their house thinking, okay, well, I can go outside, I can go to the mall, and I can call you, and they're not going to know that we're even discussing anything. And I find that so humorous. And I'm like, really, is that what you think? Well, think again. Spirits know everything. They know when you're going to make a phone call. They know who you're calling. They know when we're coming. I mean, people have called and said, oh, by the way, you don't need to come now because all the activity has stopped. And I'm like, no, that's what they want you to think. That is not really happening. Or they'll call me and they'll say, okay, the energy, the activity has picked up like tenfold. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty normal. Just know that. And if you need to verbalize it, just tell them I'm coming. Okay, that's all you need to tell them.
So we've got 2 questions about if you would be investigating in Ontario and Massachusetts.
Well, we have not investigated those areas. Normally we keep it, in our own area. And now if we're going to do a public investigation, then yeah, we will travel to other states to do that. But for the most part, it's Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky.
Ohio.
Absolutely. We have team members that are in Ohio.
All right. There's a lot of stuff in Ohio anyway.
Absolutely.
We have the one big state penitentiary that's like infamous.
Absolutely. Now, we have not investigated there, but Poasttown Elementary is in Ohio. You definitely want to check that place out. And we will actually be investigating there again. Probably not this year, but we will next year. And if you would like to go, I will send you that invite so you can discuss. Okay. All right, get the date then.
I would love that.
I want tape. I want it on videotape.
Joey, you need to come here so we can all go there and do that investigation.
Yes.
I'd love to. Oh, I'd love to. Tennessee, the Bell Witch House, ?
I have not investigated that location. I have done an investigation in Tennessee, believe it or not. We had a a friend who is a paranormal investigator who could not take the case and asked us to take it. And the 4 of us, there was 4, my husband, myself, and 2 other investigators, we actually went to Tennessee and did this investigation. And it was one of the most unusual that had taken place. And basically, at the end, we were asked to leave because the one homeowner who really didn't want us to do an investigation that had all the activity, it was centered around her, was like freaking out.
Oh.
And yeah, so it was rather different for us to be there doing that.
I know Laura Rain is part of a paranormal investigation team, and she's down around Tennessee. So you might want to ask her as well about that too.
I will absolutely do that. And now that I knew that she was part of a group, and I'm so excited about that because we have people that contact us from all over the place. And I'm all the time trying to have contacts in other states because we can't go to a lot of these places.
Yeah.
And because we don't charge for this, so it's something that we do. And we foot the bill for everything, traveling expenses or whatever. We foot the bill for everything. And so it's great
awesome,
to have these contracts. Yeah.
So this is a passion for you, basically.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a way to help people because, there's so much, well, I don't have to tell you guys, there's so much stuff going on in the world and people are struggling with many different things. And when a family calls you, a mother calls you, a father calls you, and they're saying, my child can't sleep. There's this, and this going on. And then they have the evidence to back it up where they've actually done the legwork and they filmed things or they've recorded things and you're hearing it and you're seeing it firsthand. You have to go help those people. You can't just leave them hanging.
Yeah. That's like it's not an entire investigation, but my mother and I used to do house cleansings when I lived back in Virginia all the time, and we never charged for it because of that, because people need that.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we will do a cleansing if we're asked. And one of the things that I do is I teach them how to cleanse their own house.
Yes, same.
Yeah. And giving them the tools to use, not just coming in and doing it for them, but if you give them the steps to take to protect their own family, then they're very grateful and appreciative of that.
And not only that, even when they want us to do it, like my mom and I, at least, we would bring them with us. Like, you walk with us while we do your house, because this is you. It's for you. It should be through you.
Yeah. Absolutely. I will
advocate for you, but you have to set your space and clean it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow. That's a really nice place to actually round up the video, actually talking about doing this and helping people by doing it. So I'm going to say thank you so much to Jenn for bearing with us. Do you want to promote where people can find you? And what you're...
Okay. You can find me on the website at professionalparanormalinvestigations.com. You can find me on Facebook. There is a Professional Paranormal Investigations group page. There is a like page. There is HodgsonBooks.com. It's my author page, and Traveling Witch, and on this YouTube channel as well, which is PPI Jenn.
If you send me all your information, Jenn, all of that in Facebook, I will make sure it's all below this video when I go to do the editing, and then people can find all your information below as well.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you guys for the chat. The chat was very interactive today.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful. I will ask Jenn to come back at some point soon in the future so we can talk about this some more at length, because I think it's fascinating. It's a fascinating subject, and there's loads to it that we haven't even gotten to cover, and I'd like to talk about this some more. So I will ask Jenn to come back at some point soon during the future when the technology is working again, hopefully.
Absolutely. I would love to come back, and thank you so much for having me on. I've enjoyed talking to you, both of you, and maybe the next time I can, I know I can, I will send you both some audio clips and some video clips that we have, and I don't know how to insert them into any of this stuff, but I'm sure you guys do.
Chris might. Chris will.
Absolutely. So I will send stuff to you.
That we need to do, because we could just talk about the footage in a video. That we need to do.
Absolutely.
I will set a date and we'll arrange that, because that would be awesome.
Okay,
that
great.
would be awesome.
Absolutely.
So do you want to announce anything, Chris? Do you want to plug anything?
Go find me at chrisashburn.com if you don't know me by now.
If you don't know me by now, you should know that you
love me. Okay.
Yeah.
You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and on chrisashburn.com, CRIS ashburn.com. I'm a death midwife and an intuitive spiritual mentor, and I work with like ancestors and spirituality and all those kind of things and spirit work. Yeah. So thanks for having me, Joey, as always.
It's half your channel. What are you talking about?
I know, it's half my channel. Thank you also, me, for having me on Joey's channel. And it was a pleasure to talk to you, Jen.
It was great talking to you too. I enjoyed it so much. Thank you so much.
And I'm Joey Morris. You're on my channel, so presumably you know where to find me on YouTube at least. And you can find me on Facebook.
Who is talking right now?
Yeah, from the other side. Woo! You can find me on Facebook at Starry-Eyed Supplies or Joe Morris, but you're better off for Starry-Eyed Supplies because finding Joe Morris on Facebook is a nightmare. Trust me, people have said I've been spending an hour trying to find you. And I'm like, Starry-Eyed Supplies is much easier. Then you can follow it through to Joe Morris. I have my blog. I have my store, Starry-Eyed Supplies, which is in a bit of flux at the minute. You can order things through the store still. I may have to set up a new one. I'm looking at that. I'm arguing with the tech team, trying to get them to sort things. They're not doing their job, but we're trying to fix it. But you can order things that are currently available through the store. Your orders will go through, etc. You will get your goods. It's just me fighting with technology in Mercury retrograde because I like a challenge, apparently. Following that, me and Chris have a podcast called WTF Podcast, which will be coming soon, which has the little spooky ghosts as our mascot.
They're like our minions.
Yeah. And so me and Chris are going to be hopefully putting some finalizing details this week about that, and we're going to be figuring it out, and then you can come hang with us on a podcast. And that will be a longer, probably just audio-based podcast about everything fluxy and in between, including journey working. So
journey working. I'm excited.
So yeah, so thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to Jen for bearing with us and joining us today and all the technology. But we did it.
Thank you for being so patient with us because we've had to reschedule you before.
Yeah.
It's really not any problem at all. So like I said, I knew it would happen when it was meant to happen, and I know technology, has its ups and downs, and it happens.
But we absolutely will get Jen back on and get some of those clips for you guys to hear and see and analyze them and talk about them, because that sounds amazing. I'm on board with that 100%. Chris has no choice.
I will send you pictures too, because I have some really cool pictures that that I've captured just by walking around and pointing and shooting and
cool.
I used to do that at my mom worked at a nursing home, and I used to go in and do that all the time.
Okay.
Around like at the large and see.
Absolutely.
Okay. So thank you guys, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.